Hello everyone, FlowForge here. Today's video is just going to be about this graph here pretty much, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So, I've been thinking about what wisdom actually is, and I looked into it a little bit and studied the Bible. So this came up, chokmah. It's the Hebrew word for wisdom. And as you can already see, basically it's like the word chokmah, I'm probably butchering it. It means skill. On top of like the Western interpretation or kind of view of wisdom as like general intelligence, or like this person knows what they're doing, basically. But even that, when you think about it, is skill. So they're related. Yeah, and you could potentially say that wisdom is like the skill of life. So however good you are at wisdom is how good you're going to be at life. So then that means that wisdom is the ability to get and use skill quickly. That's what wisdom is. And if you have wisdom, you grow in power and you grow in riches. Riches are like the crown of wisdom, essentially. So if it's skill, then we know that what skill is just knowledge. Like you need to know, and then you need to execute. And this is why practice works. Because you're executing and then you're learning at the same time. And you just keep doing that. However, there's different kinds of practice. Like not all practices are made equally. Some people can practice a lot and get almost nothing out of it. And some people can practice very little and get a ton out of it. And I think that this difference here comes down to mindsets and your education. But if you leave out the execution part, you're screwed. And that's the problem that most people with ADHD struggle with, is we're very quote unquote bright. Like we have all these like good ideas. We know certain things that we can do. They're very bouncy internally. Like it's good. Like we got a lot going for us. But then when it actually comes to putting the pen on paper, making the rubber hit the road, the execution part, that's where we fall apart. And the reason why is because we have executive dysfunction. Oh, right. So it's almost like we're better built for ideas and not actually acting on them. And so there's a few things here. It's like, one, you need to know how to execute yourself. Like you need to know how to be good at executing. So that's unavoidable. But then the flip side of that is, if it's hard for us to execute, that means that we should be making other things do our ideas. Like that's actually the optimal route for us, is if you can become a leader with ADHD, which being a leader is hard. There's a lot of execution that goes into it. But if you can be a leader with ADHD, you can make other people act out on your ideas, right? And then they go and do the thing. And this doesn't just have to be people, though. If you feel like you're not really a strong leader, which it's a skill, you can grow in it. What works is getting robots to do things for you. I mean, we're coming into the time of AI, right? But they're not so good at everything. Like they're not a catch-all solution. But like, what are robots made out of? Here we go, bringing it back. Ding, 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 ding. Systems, right? So systems really are the way that you off-source executive function. And if you're off-sourcing it and you don't have to do it anymore, then that's how you make your ideas become power. And I believe that the only way to get here is through execution, because you can have the idea for the system, but in order to implement it, system implementation takes execution, right? So how do I actually execute more? How do I execute more to make the systems that are going to power my execution? How do I create a feedback loop of execution and then systems that power the execution? And then how do I do that? How do I create this feedback loop? You need to have mindsets. And the reason why is because mindsets are mental systems. They're like God's automation. That's the way you can think about it. So you have to change your mindsets if you want to become better at executing when you have ADHD. And I'll give you some helpful mindsets that have helped me get to where I'm at. One of them is just deciding that you're going to be impatient about things getting done. Which maybe that sounds toxic, but it works, right? The idea is to be patient about the outcomes of things, but impatient about starting, right? Like that is huge, is just start it. Like don't ruminate it, don't dwell on it. You need to have a mindset of like, as soon as it comes into your head, start doing something about it, right? And it can be difficult because I feel like in the modern time, a lot of us sort of like live in our heads, especially if you have ADHD, you already have like a chaotic brain and it's like stimulating just being locked in there. So what you need to do is like you can use both to compound both. If you know that this is what you have to do, then you can do a very small amount of execution to do something like create a reminder. Right? Like just pair these two things in ways that make sense. Like systems can be, and they should be often. There's like two different kinds of systems, okay? There's systems that require a lot of work on the front end and then are very easy on the back end. And then there's systems that are dead simple, really, really easy, and they don't take much work at all to implement, and then they give you an awesome result as well. Like both exist. And it's important to do both because the ones that you have to spend more time and effort on typically have a higher payout than these ones, but not always. A small system like this, where it's kind of like a cheat code that I use, is instead of trying to have an app for your to-dos, literally just use a notepad. Or like basically my system is this, is that I use like a text document and then I write down the three things that I want to get done the most. And these are my needle movers, right? And typically like only two of them will be needle movers. And then the third one might be like some miscellaneous task, right? And it changes. Like the whole point of this is to be flexible. And I'll get into that. And it's so important to have flexibility if you want to execute. Like you cannot be so rigid and then it breaks and it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like you just need to be flexible and you need to get really good at picking a priority. That's what you need to do. But anyways, back to this system, this simple system that helps you execute things. How this works for me is I just have these three things and then anything else on that page is like me breaking down a task, which I don't typically do unless there's things I need to remember or I really am confused. It's like what I should be doing and I need to sit down and walk through it. Or, which I mean, depending on where you're at in your journey, like this, you may need more of this if you struggle with procrastination because doing the very simple, small things is how you gain momentum. And then once you gain that skill of like understanding how to gain momentum, then this isn't really an issue anymore. But the procrastination. But sometimes I'll break down tasks. Sometimes I'll have reminders in there for me. And it's just in a text document. Like most people are trying to use like 18 different apps to get the same result. And they're using like checkboxes and like this and that and the other. And they're like formatting their own custom. And it's like, nope, you can just use a text document. And I'm on Linux. So I'm using KDE Plasma. And that allows me to just super key, which is your Windows key, and then I just click, and like any window that's behind will come to the front, like your watch. Bam. See? It was that easy. So, in fact, I bet you it's over here, I think. No, it's showing that from down there. You can't see that on my screen. But basically, it's super, super easy for me to get to it. You know, and you can make a hotkey, or you can just use your window manager and just have it open 24/7. I used to do that. I do that sometimes, especially if I need to remember things. It's like I'll have my browser like that, and then I'll have my I call this like the plan. That's what I call the document. And then I just have the plan open over here. And it's so easy. And then I can just put whatever I need to put in there. And the plan is always evolving. It's always changing. Or I might be like, well, I need to take my dog out now. Or like, I know that I should take my dog out after this. Or I know I should play with my dog after this. So like it'll come into my mind. Oh, okay, I better do that. And so does everything on this list get done every day? No. And that's fine. It's what matters is that you see it and that you're moving. That's what matters. Another mindset that really, really helps for actually getting the execution done is something that I've talked about in other videos, but we'll go a little bit more in depth here, is just being obsessed with whatever you're working on. And you might say, well, it's work. Like, how do I... Like, no, it's gross. And that's the problem, is you think it's gross. And it's because you've had a bunch of bad experiences with it. Being obsessed helps a lot. And the way that you can actually become obsessed is... Obsession is forged through passion. Or passion is something that's forged. It doesn't just come with you out of the box. It happens after you've had enough good experiences with something. And there's this great quote I like. It's, winners know that they will lose, and losers don't know what it feels like to win. I guarantee you, like, you're probably looking at your tasks, some of them anyways, as like this like gruesome thing that you're like don't want to do, and it's like, oh no, you know? But it doesn't have to be that way. You can, instead of looking at it like, oh no, you can look at it as like, I'm an athlete, this is my sport, this is my game, and I want to be as good as I possibly can be at it. And it's a little bit of discipline. You got to submit to the process. But then if you have this mindset, it's like way, way, way less discipline. And the reason why is because you're having fun. You're more likely to have fun. And the way you actually get here is you have to make it your art. Like, make cleaning your art. Make productivity your art. That's why I have my job, because productivity is my art. And I'm obsessed with it, and I study it, and I share these insights with you. So it just works, man. It just works. I'm telling you. Like, you have to have that sort of like artist, kind of insane obsession. And one thing that can help do this is another system that works for me, is making a trigger. And this trigger is basically to get you in game mode. Now, when you have ADHD, you need more stimulation than the average person. And we oftentimes learn a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms to basically make us productive. Like, because stress is stimulating. That's the thing. But stress is not necessarily bad. Like, there's good amounts of cortisol, and then there's bad amounts of cortisol. Everything is good in moderation. Like, an athlete has a lot of cortisol, but it's a good kind of stress. So what you're trying to do is differentiate between good stress and bad stress. And you being in game mode is when you essentially have good stress. And one way you can tell if you have good stress or bad stress is if you're having fun. If you're stressed but you're having fun, that's like playing a video game. Like, that's stressful a lot of times, FPSs. Like, you're kind of stressed, but it's a good stress that keeps you motivated to keep going, right? And that's the kind of stress that you're looking for. So what you can do is you can have a song that you listen to that puts you in game mode, and it's your trigger. And now it's like, if you ever, and if you do it enough times where it's like the trigger is the start of the deep work session, it puts you in game mode, you get kind of like quote unquote like locked in, right? And people will say like, oh, that's motivation, and motivation doesn't work. Like motivation is just hype. You can never just like keep motivating yourself. You need discipline. When you have ADHD, it's a little different for you. Okay, motivation, you actually is a great way to kickstart your engine. And what I mean by that is your engine is perfectly good at being focused. Like you have more focus than the average person because you have hyper focus. It's just that you need to get into the flow. And the way you get into the flow, motivation is a great way to start. Like, so a lot of people will tell you don't try to like motivate yourself. I wouldn't watch motivation videos because this is a much easier way. Is you just create a trigger, and then it's like I know that every time I listen to this, and I have different ones for different tasks. Like I have one for doing like matrix dives and like coding, and I have one for working on the business, and I have one for like I've got different triggers for different things, and they're all songs, and I just play them, and then I like sit there and I like kind of let parts of my brain shut off and other parts come online as I'm listening to the song, and then by the time it's done, I'm basically already in a flow state because I've trained myself to do that, and it doesn't take very long. You just have to start doing it, right? So that's another thing is external call to actions. External call to actions. And here's your call to action. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the video so this gets pushed to more people if you thought it was helpful. And so that it comes up on your feed and that you can have me giving you external call to actions to get things done. If you love yourself, you should probably do that. But shameless self plug aside, you can make yourself do things. You can tell future you to do things, right? And you don't have to be like a jerk about it. Like that's what calendars are, is like typically people load them up and it's just like garbage and it's almost like a crappy boss like telling you to do a bunch of stuff and you're not even capable. That's why I don't use calendars. I do use them, but not like that. That's a different video. But making you can make your own call to actions from past you to future you. You can put reminders on your phone. You can do these things. A great one is just having it in that the plan is what I call it. You can call it whatever you want. Is having reminders in there where it's like, hey, you should probably do this today, and you don't have to get everything done. Like that's another thing is so many people have this bad mindset of like I have to get everything done. Oh my goodness, and it's like no, you're never gonna get everything done. There's always gonna be like 20 things that you never complete, and that's fine. And it's because the reason why is because you have ADHD and you're really really bad at deciding what you should do, and this you can get better at it. This is a skill you're training. This is what this video is about. But you're always going to be having more ideas of things that you could do, and you're going to have to come back and re-strategize and cut ideas out and cut things out as to what you're actually going to be doing. And ideally, there's so many things that we do that we don't even want to do. If you have the money to pay a cleaner, get a cleaner. Like, what are you doing? Get somebody to do it for you. If AI can do it for you, make AI do it for you. Now, don't be sloppy. Like, don't produce poor quality stuff. But if you just need good enough, go. Because MVP is the king. What is MVP? MVP is minimum viable product. I love how my text has just turned more and more into scribbles, and I'm like, it's fine. You guys hear my voice. It's okay. So that's what I got today. I don't want to throw too much on there. You should be taking notes if you're watching my video. I'll say that. And you should be writing things down as well, just always. Because here's another thing to help. One more little mini system bonus for the people who stuck around long enough is you can, because you have poor recall as someone with ADHD, your recall is not very good. What helps with recall is just writing literally everything down. And not, here's the difference. Most people, when they say to write everything down, they want you to, or they think that you have to be able to access it and like index it in some way, and that's not true. Like, if you're trying to do that, of course it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you're trying to do that. The reason you want to write everything down is because it makes it more sticky and you're more likely to remember it, especially if you draw a picture next to it, like, say, a rabbit. I guess that's what this is. Perfect. Right? Like, if you draw little doodles on things, you're more likely to remember them. Or if you make pictograms, if you make graphs, which is why I. Oh, hold on. I love how it always is like a line going like to the right and down. But like that's why I make this. And I have this on a whiteboard. So it's like I can see it, it's visually remembering, and then when I think about it, it's I remember this image, which is much more mentally sticky, which is also why you should make mind maps. Okay. Mind maps work, they're good, especially if you have ADHD. You can use sticky notes, but don't expect them to work like how they work for normal people. I use sticky notes. I just write everything down on them, like literally everything. If it comes into my mind, I just like write it down. I have a notebook open next to me, and I just write down stuff in it. Um, that's just how I do things. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest. Like when you have ADHD, life is kind of disorganized, and that's okay as long as you are working towards the organization and as long as you are aware that things are going to break and then you come up with new ideas to implement to work on them. And if you keep doing that, if we go back to wisdom is the ability to gain and use skill quickly, the only thing that works is practice. And so you have to just fall over and over and over and over and over again until you get it. And it's going to take time, and you need to be willing to experiment. You need to be willing to break things and to troubleshoot. So just be free. Like you want to treat everything like play, and you want to not be afraid, because fear is by far the number one most vicious productivity killer. Is when you're afraid and you're doing too much, or you're afraid so you're doing too little, so you won't get started or you won't stop. Like those are the things that are killing your productivity. Stop being afraid. Just do things in the way that they make sense. Where it's like, oh, I did this, so now I should probably do this. I did this, so now I should probably do this. And you can be productive 24/7. I'm telling you right now, you can. Doesn't mean you have to. Sometimes it's wise to just take a break, watch some video, you know. But if you know that you're going to get distracted, maybe create a user script using AI that just brings you to your watch later page whenever you go on YouTube. So that way it's like you only have the watch laters or download extensions, you know. So this is the skill of being productive. You have to train it, but you have to submit to this process if you want to get there. And if you want a little bit more speed in this, then you can hire me for mentorship. It's $50 per session, hour-long sessions. If you want to learn about Linux and using Linux for productivity, I also do that now. That's $100 per session. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Subscribe. Peace.